Welcome to another episode, everyone. Nolan Wells' best friend sits down for his first interview and explains what happened on that fateful day. I'll let you all decide about what you all listen to here. For me, I've only seen a couple of minutes of this interview. He seems to be making light of it. For this to be Nolan Wells' best friend, and he just lost his best friend. Everyone grieves differently, though. Perhaps he's one of those that's grieving differently. Here, Officer Tommy sits down with him. Officer Tatum sits down with him and has this discussion about what happened on Horns Island the day Nolan Wells came up missing. We don't know which day he died. We still waiting on word from the independent autopsy. And that's undetermined, essentially, exactly when he passed away at this point. Nevertheless, there's a lot of suspicion surrounding these so-called friends of his. As we all know, Nolan Wells, some of his messages were deleted. Some of the friends' messages were deleted. One of these friends' stepmother is a judge. No one has been arrested. They're saying that he was just left behind and that it was an accident. And Uncle Tommy had went to Horns Island, this individual here, and was trying to justify it, had no facts, and was saying that that they could not have done anything to Nolan Wells, basically because Horns Island would have been crowded on that day on the 4th of July, etc. Instead of just letting the investigation unfold and play out, and let's find out exactly what happened. Don't jump to any conclusions, including that these individuals are guilty. But let's see what this individual has to say.
All right, so I want to be clear with this one thing, because I know you mentioned before, is there any chance or any knowledge that you have that anybody deleted stuff from his phone?
Nolan was like a brother to me. Nolan lit up every room he walked in. 4th of July, everybody was out there. Nolan rode out on the Triton, and then we had a Palm Beach, 18 Palm Beach. There was 4 guys on that. The rest of the group, which was ranged from maybe 10 to 15 or 16 people on my buddy's tide line.
Yeah, so y'all pretty much having a good time. And then you guys get ready to leave prematurely.
Right.
And explain that, because you guys got there around 10.
Yeah.
It's now 4:30.
Right.
People are still out there partying and
Correct.
They're having a good time, but something happened to where it necessitated you guys to get the boat up and running. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So I had a girl come up to me and say, "Hey, your brother just got in a fight." And obviously I have a younger brother, and that's who she was talking about. And I was freaked out. So I walked over to the beach, and I didn't walk over, I ran over. I made a beeline, I didn't talk to anybody, put my drink down and walked over there. And my brother was kind of angry, and there was a lot going on, but someone was getting pulled away. I don't know who it was. And my brother was like, "Oh, I just got in a fight, and this guy punched me in the face," and I punched him right back. And then went to the ground, and my brother put him in an arm bar. And
was Nolan involved in any of this?
Absolutely not. When I was over there, it was a bunch of younger guys like my brother's age. And Nolan, I never saw Nolan over there. Yeah. Absolutely not. And, okay, sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
Why did you lose your train of thought as soon as he brings up Nolan Wells' name? Now, this is part 3. I didn't see part 1 and 2. I don't know if he had it perhaps just for his members or what. This is part 3 of the interview that he had. So I don't know, again, what was said in part 1 and part 2, just going off of what we're looking at right now. And I don't know what's so funny. Perhaps in part 1 and 2, he was crying or something. I don't know. But right now, he's just there in his flip-flops, like he's on his way back to Horns Island, like he's on his way back on the boat with his little hat on, his little shirt. He's not there in a 3-piece suit like he's at a funeral. He doesn't look like someone that is grieving to me. But again, everyone grieves differently. And, I'll let him tell his story. But let's keep in mind that Nolan Wells is his best friend. So whatever happened to him, this is his best friend. The title says, Bombshell. Nolan Wells' best friend exposes why Nolan Wells was left on the island, part 3. That's the title. Bombshell. Nolan Wells' best friend. His best friend. That's what Officer Tatum's title reads. Bombshell. Nolan Wells' best friend exposes, in all capitals, exposes why Nolan Wells or why Nolan was left on the island, part 3. So this is supposed to be his best friend. Let's just keep that in mind as we see this. We're not talking about something that happened a year ago. We're talking about July 4th, and this is July 24th. We're talking about 20 days ago. And he's under heavy suspicion, as is the rest of his friends. But in spite of all of that, this is his best friend that he just lost in a tragic way, who they just had a funeral for, and who people, in the world are accusing you of having something to do with. I would think you would want to clear your name emphatically, make it clear you had absolutely nothing to do with anything, and maybe show some sort of emotion towards your best friend, Nolan, who lost his life. Whether you had something to do with it or not, he's gone. He's dead. If it was an accident, if he drowned, he's dead. They just had his funeral. This is your best friend who died. But then, of course, when you mix in the fact that they're blaming you for his death, essentially, you and your friends or whatever, you're certainly under suspicion for it by me and everyone else, then perhaps you would just have a different approach to the interview. How much did Officer Tommy pay him for this interview? So is he profiting now from Nolan Wells' death? He's not doing the interview for free, I doubt it, unless he's already rich, which he may be. Part 1, 2, and 3? No, he sat there for a while. How much did he get paid for this interview? So now you're getting money from your best friend's tragic demise. And probably going to get more money and more money and more money, and do more interviews and more interviews and more interviews soon.
You get ready to go. There's an issue with the boat.
Okay, yeah.
And this is what
this led up to that. That's what I was saying.
So the fight happened with your brother, or a little scuffle. I'm assuming that it was cleared up.
You're right.
You got your brother out of that situation, and then how did you find out that this boat is sinking?
Well, I walked back over, and we're probably around each other for a little bit. I mean, I wasn't thinking anything about it. I pulled my brother off the beach, and I was just like, listen, get in the water, hang out with us, calm down. I mean, he was calm, but I didn't want anything else to happen, And so once I got back over to the boat, I got on the Triton, and the Triton had probably about 6 inches of water up to the transom. And I was freaked out because I'm good friends with Wyatt, and that was his boat. And, no water's coming out, no access water's coming out. And, it was a big issue because I think the reason was because there were so many people getting on and off the boat. And at some point, the boat was very, very crowded, and there was just a lot of people on. So that it drags water in. And eventually, I think over time, we were out there for a couple hours. The boat just started filling up with water. So I popped the starboard side hatch, and the battery was completely underwater. And so the motor wouldn't trim down. I mean, my buddy would go to trim it down from the console, and it'd trim down, and then it'd come right back up. And so Wyatt's trying to throw a rear anchor, so we're caught, and he's, yelling at people. Everybody's kind of freaking out. And eventually, I'm yelling at other people, trying to tell them, calm down, the boat could possibly sink, and I'm not paying attention to everyone around me. I was paying attention to my buddy's boat. And that's what all my other friends that were on that boat were doing, trying to solve the problem.
So you're on the boat now. The water is getting up to the point where the boat may be disabled to where you couldn't get it out
Correct.
from Horn Island. So what happens after that?
Wyatt jumps to the water, tries to throw a rear anchor, and my buddy Meyer, you're sitting, looking, trying to pull trash out the bilge, and the bilge is basically a pump that pulls the water, the excess water out the boat. So the bilge was failing to work. So any excess water was just sitting in the boat. It wasn't getting pumped out. And I looked over the gunnel and I looked at the...
So the boat is not working. The boat is tripping. The water is coming all in the boat. And where's Nolan at this time? Because y'all all came together. But somehow, y'all got the boat to work again and working so well that you were able to get off of Horn Island in this boat. You got off. You made it back. You here doing an interview. Nolan, meanwhile, is in a casket.
Release hole for the bilge, and it was even with the water. So, I mean, we're all freaking out. All of our, we're not focused on anything else other than the boat. Well, then, eventually, my buddy Bart on the tide line is like, I'm going to pull y'all out to where we're out of all this, all this chaos. Because we left at 4:30, and there were still just as many people there, if not more, than when we got there. I mean, probably around the same amount. I mean, it was crazy. Like, there was a lot of people. And, eventually, Bart pulls us out. We left at 4:30, but we really weren't pulled out away from everybody. We were probably about a quarter mile out, and we had the towing strap pulled from, Bart's port side cleat or starboard side cleat, and he was on our starboard side bow. And so it was rubbing on his power pole. So Bart turned around, pulled up next to our boat, and we were just trying to get it situated. So that's when Wyatt called Cito. And Wyatt was like, calls him, because the cell service isn't great at the island, but once you can use your phone, but stuff might not just send, and it's not great. You got maybe one bar, and it won't work that well. But once you get a little off the island, you have cell coverage. And even on the island, like I called my mom when we were on the island, it was fine. Like we had enough cell coverage to make a phone call or shoot a text over, but you don't have enough cell coverage to like send a picture, for example. So Wyatt.
So I want to go back.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I want to touch on that real quick, because the phone thing came up at some point. And so was it when you guys got off the boat?
Yeah.
Were people taking their phones off the boat, or is that not typical? Because I know that Nolan's phone was left on the boat,
Right.
even though after you guys had left. So can you explain that? Because I think people need to understand this a little clearer.
Yeah.
Was it typical for people to have their phones left on boats, or did they keep their
course.
phones in the water?
Yeah. Everybody kind of goes out to the island to get away from, their phones and everything else. I know I got on the boat to get away from, just the regular world. And
Officer Tommy should have been a prosecutor or a lawyer, the way he's leading this individual. Now he wants him to speak on why Nolan Wells left his phone behind on the boat. Because we know that he left his phone. He just decided to leave the boat and his phone too. Here, take my phone.
no, when you're waist deep in water, no one's carrying their phone in their hand. Especially at Horn Island, the water has been very, very murky because of the rain. And when it's just very risky. If you're gonna have your phone in the water, some people might for a couple minutes and like maybe taking some pictures of each other. I know a lot of girls like to take pictures in the water at Horn Island. Guys do too. Like people like to take pictures, and but a lot of the pictures you see are on the boat for a reason. And so, no, if someone is on their phone in the water, they're using it real quick and then putting it right back on the boat. We were all waist deep in water. No one's sitting there scrolling on their phone. I never saw that once. And I've never seen that once. And I've been out the Highland my whole life. That's just not something people do. People aren't on their phones. And everybody has their phone, yes, but it's always on the boat. No one's getting off the boat with their phone. So.
And so you guys get ready to leave out of there, getting towed out.
Yeah.
And then where's Nolan in this situation?
Well, Nolan was, the last time I saw Nolan was 3 o'clock. And Nolan was cradling a girl in his arms, Katie, Katie. And Katie, Nolan was sitting there, and the last time I saw him, I looked at Nolan, and Nolan was like shaking his head, laughing, and I was like, dude, you crazy. I was like just joking with him. And, but anyway, Nolan, that was the last time I laid eyes on him. But when we were leaving, obviously, no one is getting left at the island that came with us unless they demanded to, be there and asked, this is a very common thing at Horn Island. When you're out there, a lot of people ride out there with someone and in with somebody else all the time. I've done that 100 times. It's a very common thing, but Nolan was sitting by the boat with that Katie girl, and my buddy yelled for Nolan, get on the boat. We're leaving. The boat's having issues. And no, he didn't say that, but he was panicking. Nolan, get the F on the boat. Get on the boat. And Nolan said, no, I'm staying out here. I'm going to ride in with somebody else. And it's not uncommon to hear, but it's not like my buddy asked him one time. My buddy asked Nolan multiple times to get on the boat. Nolan, get on the boat. Get on the boat. We're leaving. If you're coming, you got to come now. And Nolan made a decision.
So, is this the video that we've seen? Because other people were saying that video was from some time ago, where it looks like they were on the boat yelling at Nolan, who was somewhere else, saying, "Hey, get on the boat!" And Nolan was yelling, "Give me my phone, give me my effing phone," or whatever. Do you all recall that video? I don't know. I don't want to litigate the case here on the internet. It's something for a court of law, but the court of law is racist and can't believe anything that they do as it relates to black people. So I don't believe in the justice system whatsoever. The laws are not universally applied, so I don't believe in the system because the system is venal and simply corrupt. But this individual, he has had some time to put his story together. It's been weeks now. And no arrest. Apparently the police probably hasn't even talked to him and made him give up statements and can hold him to the statements when the situation first occurred. Because there's a big cover-up going on. And all of this sounds good. And I don't know. It could all be true. It could be absolutely true. And it could all be made up too. How convenient. The boat happened to be in deep waters. It happened to be in big trouble. The boat. You rich old YT kids went out there in the boat that ends up about to sink. Y'all got yachts, but y'all end up in some rinky-dink boat that is now about to sink. The water's up to here, he says. But still, I don't know how Nolan got separated from the boat. You all are on the boat panicking about the water getting up to here, so you have to tell Nolan, come on, get on the boat. Get on the effing boat. So this is explaining the video that we seen while they're yelling and arguing back and forth with Nolan, because they're telling him to get on the boat because, hey, we love you so much and the boat is about to sink. But somehow the boat made it back to shore. That's why he's here doing the interview. But at this time, the boat is in deep trouble. It's in dire straits. And Nolan, he says no. And he didn't have his phone with him. He's not in the water at this time, is he? He's somewhere hugged up with the Katie girl, as he refers to her. He's not in the water. Well, how come he doesn't have his phone with him if he knows that he's staying behind now? Not to swim, not to get in the water, But he's staying behind for good. He's sending y'all going y'all way. He's about to go his way, which you say is prevalent. This is common. Okay, he's about to do this. And he still told y'all he doesn't want his phone. Just take his phone back. Knowing that he's staying here on the island.
To stay out on the island. And like he said,
How many people heard that? Were there just,
at least
just a
5
few, or?
I mean, everyone that was on our boat right there, because the Palm Beach had already left.
They all heard it. Everyone there. Everyone on the beach, everyone on the sand, everyone in the boats, everyone in the water. They were all white. They all heard the same thing. They all got their story together. It's been 3 weeks. Now the boat was about to sink. The water came up to knee high, and the reason they were cursing at Nolan because they were telling him, "Get back on the boat, Nolan. Get back on the boat, Nolan. Get back on the effing boat. It's about to sink. We're panicking. We don't want to leave you out here." He's not in the water. He's hugged up with Katie. Y'all have his phone, and you say people don't keep their phone when they're in the water. That's why they take pictures on the boat, but he's not in the water. He's somewhere hugged up with Katie. He's about to stay here and stay on the island. Get on another boat, be in the sand, whatever. He's staying here. He needs his phone. He's not taking a swim and then about to get back on the boat with you all. That's why he will keep his phone on the boat. He's just about to take a swim and then get back on the boat. Because you say people don't have their phone in the water. That's not what's going on. He's staying behind. He's choosing to stay behind. He's not leaving with you all, and he knows this. This is his choice, according to you. And yet with that, knowing that he's choosing, I'm staying here. Y'all go ahead and go. And take my phone with you, even though I'm staying here on the island. No, I understand what you said, that they don't have the phone when they're right there swimming. He's not in here to take a swim and then get back on the boat and then leave with you all. That's when you leave your phone behind, like putting it in a locker or something. You're in the gym about to go play basketball. You leave it there. No, he's not going back with you all. He knows this at this point. If he didn't know it before, he knows it at this point, according to you, that he's choosing to stay behind. And yet still told y'all, go ahead and take my phone.
My buddy went ahead and went home on the Palm Beach, and 3 guys on the way back. And Nolan wasn't the only person to ride out there with us and in with somebody else. I mean, we had multiple people in our group that rode out with us and rode in on someone else's boat. And that, like I said, that's not an uncommon thing to do. I mean, a lot of people do that. I could name probably 50 people out there that day that ran out with somebody and ran back in with somebody else. So, I mean, it's not like it's an uncommon thing, but it's not like we just left him there or my friends just left him there. Nolan made a decision to stay on the island after my friends asked him multiple times and told him to get on the boat, and he decided to stay.
And I heard the girl that he was with, Katie, had text somebody that she heard people yelling
Correct.
for Nolan to get on it. Is that true?
And I have a picture of that. She texted my buddy, and the next day everybody was panicking and everybody's texting Katie, because she was obviously seen with Nolan the whole day at the island. Katie sent a message to my buddy the next day and said, this is the last time I saw him, he's really sweet. But she also mentioned that the last time she saw Nolan was when my buddy was yelling at him to get on the boat. And she was right there to see that Nolan decided not to.
Yeah, and so you guys get in the boat, you start to get towed in, and you make it back. Now explain.
She was right there to see that. That's the last thing she saw, huh? Yeah, Nolan. You had some cold friends, buddy, including old Katie. That's what she's saying? That's the last thing she saw was, his best friends were telling him to get on a boat and he didn't want to go. So he didn't want to get on the boat and he wasn't staying with you. You left him there too. They left him. You left him. What was he staying there to do? By himself. I can see him saying he's staying back to hang out with you, to hang out with Katie, who he say he was hugged up with all day. But now, after they leave, Suddenly she leaves too. They've been together all day on the island, he just said. But now she ends up leaving him on the island too. What happened? Y'all been together all day. Now that his ride is gone, now you decide, this is when you decide to go? Y'all been together all day. I'm like Columbo up in this thing, huh? Yeah, can't get one over on me like that, dog.
How did you get to the point where you were concerned about Nolan? Because obviously you said, hey, Nolan, y'all need to, or somebody, not
when
you,
did I get
but
to that point?
you guys had made mention Nolan need to get on a boat.
Yeah.
He didn't.
Yeah.
You guys get back to wherever you're going.
Right.
Explain that. Did you guys go back to somebody's house, or you guys like what happened there? And then
explain that.
When
boy.
did you feel like, well, wait a minute, where's Nolan?
Right. Okay. Well, running in was very chaotic. I mean, Nolan chose to stay on the island, so my focus wasn't on anything else other than the boat. Because if the boat doesn't get in, then no one gets in. I don't want to sink out there on my buddy's boat, and no one does. But my buddy Wyatt jumped out and pulled the plug on the boat once we kind of got out there, because he got the motor to trim down. And the motor trimmed down, my buddy Wyatt pulled the plug, and we planed off. We moved all the weight to the front of the boat so we could plane off. And eventually we planed off, and the boat was running. So when you're planed off and you have water in the boat and you're hauling, we're going pretty fast. We're going probably 40, 42 miles an hour. And so all that excess water that was built up in the boat is coming out of the boat. So, I mean, that's what we had to do. So we ran into Fort Bayou, and we didn't just run straight to my buddy's grandparents' house. We ran into Fort Bayou. A couple of us jumped in the water, and Wyatt, the whole reason for the stop was so Wyatt could hop in and put the plug back in the boat. So then after that, we went and docked it, and I went back to my buddy's house, and we ate and napped for a little bit. It was a long day at the island, so we were all tired. And eventually, we go over to a girlfriend of mine. She was having people over for 4th of July. We were doing like fireworks and stuff, so we all went over there to swim and hang out. And
this infamous picture that I've seen online of Nolan in the water in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
And no one thought to say, well, hold on, we have Nolan's phone. Is he okay? No one called Katie. You can't call Nolan. No one thought before you left with his phone. Well, hold on, we have his phone. We can't leave him here. We're already leaving him here. His own decision, apparently. But we can't leave him here without his phone. What if he drowns? He may need his phone. Maybe he needs to call for help if he's about to drown.
Where is this picture associated with? Because you said you guys went back to swim. Nolan wasn't with you.
Yeah.
So where is this picture at? Like,
Right.
what's the context around the picture that's been floating?
That picture is taken on June 27th, a week before the 4th of July. We all went to a friend of ours in Pass Christian. We have a lot of friends from Bay St. Louis, Pass Christian, and we all went over there to hang out. And
And Nolan was in that picture.
Nolan was in that picture. And if you look in the picture, my arm is around Nolan in that picture, And I mean, that was a week before the 4th of July. So that picture is not associated within even the same. I mean, that was like a week before. So, yeah.
So you guys are now at swimming and having a good time at a lady friend's house.
Right. I never got to the pool. I talked to her dad for a while.
Okay.
And I mean, all my friends were downstairs. I went upstairs, talked to her dad. We were talking about boats and stuff. And, I've been with my friends all day. I was just talking to everybody. But
So you talked to the young lady's dad, and then how long was it before you realized, or you guys realized that, well, where's Nolan at?
I mean, I went back downstairs, and all my friends were just hanging out, and my buddy Wyatt had addressed, talking about Nolan, and I was like, well, where is Nolan? Have y'all heard from him? And he was like, no, we haven't. And I was like, okay, well, it's a little concerning. Like, I mean, I'm not freaking out or anything, but like, I'm trying to find out where Nolan is. So I texted Javon, and I was like, hey, Also a couple other buddies that I had at the island. I was like, hey, have y'all seen Nolan? Did he ride in with y'all? And all the buddies were like, no. Well, I texted Javon and I was like, hey, can you send me Miss Christine's number? Because I haven't heard from Nolan. And if she hasn't heard from Nolan, then I'm calling the Coast Guard. And so eventually Javon sends me her number.
Who is her? That's
Miss Christine.
Miss Christine is
Nolan's mom.
Nolan's mom. Okay.
Yeah. And I walked down to the dock because, I mean, there was a lot of people at Ava's. Not a lot, but, you know, there was probably 15 of our friends there. And I was just like, walked down to the dock with a couple of my buddies, and I got on the phone I called Miss Christine, called her the first time. She didn't answer. I called her a second time, and I got on the phone with her, and I asked her if she had heard from Nolan. She said no. And I said, all right, well, don't freak out. I'm going to call the Coast Guard. And this was at about 11 o'clock.
So what's your intent in calling the Coast Guard, right? Because right now, Nolan could be with a chick. He could be with somebody else.
Right.
He could have gone back with somebody else. What made you concerned enough that you felt like you couldn't weigh it out anymore? You had to call the Coast Guard.
Well, I mean, like I said, my friends and I have been on the water our whole life. Stuff happens. People die all the time. I know people that have died out there. And, you know.
Right. So why did you leave him there then? If you know people die all of the time, you've been out on Horns Island all of your life, and so you know these waters. You personally know people who've died there all of the time. Then why did you leave your best friend out there? And that was a good question by Officer Tommy. Why call the Coast Guard and call around asking people if they've heard from Nolan? Why would they? First of all, he doesn't have a phone. You all have his phone. And secondly, if he chose to stay out there and he's staying out there just to party with Katie or whatever else or whomever else, why would you be worried that you haven't heard from him after a few hours? You're not expecting to hear from him. He's out there partying. He's out there chilling. He told y'all go this way. I'm chilling. I'm out here. I'm chilling. Finna hang out with Katie. So why are you so concerned a few hours later when you haven't heard from him? You know why you haven't heard from him. He's out there chilling. But now you're so concerned that you need to call the Coast Guard so that the Coast Guard can go looking for him and, let me guess, eventually find his body.
It's a fun place to be, but it's also a very, very dangerous place to be if you're not handling it right. And Nolan, so I hadn't heard from him, and obviously I'm thinking I'd way rather be safe than sorry. I mean, I would rather call the Coast Guard 100 times and lose my mind over it and my buddy be okay than, not, and me not know where he is and him not be okay. And so I called the Coast Guard.
Well, he wasn't okay with the moment you left him. If you were so concerned about him that you'd call the Coast Guard 100 times, and you should have called him 100 times before you left on that boat without him. You should have said, I'm not leaving without my best friend. Because for one, we have his phone. For two, people die out here all of the time. I've been out here all of my life. I personally know people who die out here in these waters all of the time. So I'm not leaving my best friend out here. I'm not leaving without you, Nolan. Could have did that.
And I talked to them on the phone for like 20 minutes, gave them a description, what Nolan was wearing, the last place we were at, the last time I saw him, who were we with, what boat we were on, the conditions of the water, just a summary. And I called Miss Christine back after, and I talked to her, and I said, I got in contact with the Coast Guard. I'm not sure who she called or, what she did, but I think she said she was going to make a couple phone calls to either DMR or Jackson County Sheriff's Office. And I was thinking worst case scenario. I would way rather be safe than sorry about this,
Yeah, so you called, so it seems like you called mom immediately.
Right.
probably the first phone call that she got from anybody.
That's the first phone call, like at least I made. And I would assume that's the first phone call she got from anybody because Javon hadn't called her. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but Javon hadn't called her. And, I mean, I was just worried about my friend. You know, stuff happens out there, boat problems, it could be anything. But, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens out there, and I was just worried about my friend.
And so you guys made that call, nothing that night. And I'm assuming you wake up the next day, and then what happens?
I wake up the next day at about 7:30, and my dad had texted me because obviously Nolan's photo was all over Facebook, and you know, I just saw it everywhere, and I was freaked out because I was like, oh my gosh, like you know, I assumed, you know, Nolan's just, you know, we had been drinking all day, and like, you know, that he's just sleeping somewhere, and you know that he's okay, but.
Oh, so he was drunk. Now you throwing in there that he was drunk. Y'all had been drinking all day. So is that why he drowned? Is that what it is? Is that why he had this accident? Because he was intoxicated? Is that where this is going? Well, if he was drunk, that's even more reason not to leave him there alone. If you all have been drinking all day, as you just said, that's even more reason not to leave your best friend there when you know that people die out here on this island all of the time. And now your friend is inebriated, increasing his chances of drowning, falling in the water, doing something crazy. And you still left him out there, knowing that you all have been drinking all day?
Didn't want to believe that if we didn't know for sure. So, I mean, next day I woke up and my stepdad walked to my room and he said, hey, like, have they heard anything about Nolan? Like, what's going on? Because I hadn't spoke to him. And he was like, I was like, yeah, no, like, I don't know. I had just gotten up. And he was like, all right, well, we're going and getting on the boat and looking for him. And I was like, okay, yeah. So I got my buddy Ricky, I got my buddy Brooks, I got my buddy Jax. My mom came on the boat with my stepdad and I, and we all went out there and looked. When I got out there was dozens of DMR boats, helicopters, planes flying over Horn Island. And this wasn't just Horn Island. There was also Ship Island they were looking at, I'm sure, and Chandelier Island, Petty Boy. I mean, it wasn't just Horn Island specifically, but where I was at Horn, there were boats everywhere, and not just like random boats, but like, you know, marine resource boats and, you know, cops and, you know, the whole nine. Like, it wasn't like there was just a couple boats looking for Nolan.
So all of those people, all of those boats, planes and cops and all of that were checking out all the places nearby and all of the islands, not just Horn Island, which was infested with cops and search teams or what have you, they all made it out there before you. Your best friend is missing. You called his mother. You called the Coast Guard. You could have been calling the Coast Guard on your way out there. Come to find out your father or stepfather has a boat. So much so that y'all went and jumped in that boat and went looking for Nolan. But by the time you get there, everybody else is already there, flooded with people. You should have been the first one there. Y'all had means to go out there and look for him from the beginning. Before you even called the Coast Guard, you could have been out there looking for him. You know the island so well.
There's planes and helicopters and, you know, everybody. So.
And then after this, you know, obviously they didn't find Nolan that day.
Right.
And so what was your reaction like when you heard the news, or how did you hear the news that they found Nolan's body?
Well, the next day, it got to be about 1 o'clock on July 5th, and I was like, my mind started to turn. I was like, man, you know, if he's not awake yet, like, where is he? Like, you know, like I got very, very worried. And
you still think he's asleep?
You know, I was with my buddy Brooks the next day, and we're driving, and my buddies were texting my group chat. They were like, hey, listen. And then I got a phone call from my buddy Trace, and he was like, hey, man, they just found his body. And I was like, I wanted to have hope, but it was really, really hard to have hope when they haven't found your buddy in the last 2 days. And, but there's still a little bit of hope there, you know, like maybe, you know, he's not gone and maybe, you know, he's okay. But my reaction was just, I was with my buddy Brooks and I broke down. I mean, I haven't experienced death a lot, but especially with someone I'm as close with as Nolan. And I mean, I broke down and I sat there on my buddy Brooks' shoulder and I cried. And I was upset. I made a couple phone calls to my buddies and checked up on my buddies because, you know, I care about my buddies too. I mean, like we're all experienced this. Like we all realized at the same time. We all heard the news at the same time. Like, you know, he's gone. And so it was really, really hard on me. I mean, I've never experienced something like this, and it was traumatic. I mean, I could tell you where and when I was there, when I got that phone call, you know, where I was. And I just remember, like, it was insane. Like, I can't even put into words how upset I was, you know, and how upset my friends were. So.
And then comes the stories and the backlash and the craziness. I mean, you guys are now hearing that you're responsible for it. You did it. You killed Nolan. So what was the next step? Did you guys ever engage with police or?
Yeah, so the first time I talked to the police was July 7th. I talked to the lead investigator and I told him my whole story, top to bottom, dotted every I, crossed every T. I told him everything I knew, every little detail. I mean, everything I could, you know, tell them to try to figure something out, you know.
Were you the only one to talk to the cops or?
No, of course
some
not.
Other guys
you know, every person that was included, especially, you know, the guys that you see on social media, everybody cooperated with the police fully. You know, Nolan was with us on the way out and he rode out on the boats with us. So, I mean, we were the first people to get questioned. I mean, we cooperated with the police the first time they called us and, you know, we talked to them, you know, as soon as they needed and we were fully cooperative.
And we see Benjamin Crump come into town, made it about race.
Right.
What's your feeling about that? Do you think that any of this has anything to do with race or, because I mean, obviously something happened to Nolan. It appears that you guys may not have been involved at all. When I say may not, it's no evidence that you were involved at all. You guys had left.
Right.
But do you think that there's a racial component to any of this?
Of course not. I mean, I think if Nolan ever felt the most little bit uncomfortable around us, which we never gave him a reason to, but if he did, he wouldn't hang out around us. But if you go look on, you know, like my friends have had Nolan posted all over our social medias, you know, since freshman year in high school. Like, if Nolan ever felt uncomfortable with us, why would he be hanging out with us all the time? I mean, every day we're back from college, we hang out and we're around each other all the time. So absolutely not. I would never look at Nolan any other way than I would any of my other friends. I mean, he was like a brother to me.
You guys had been interviewed by law enforcement. All of you guys have given statements. But then I think that there's a part associated with this that's being rumored out in the public, and that is the situation with the cell phone, potential deletion of messages. When did that occur and what happened there?
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, part 4. I was about to say he left a little teaser. Part 4 coming soon, he says. I don't know. You all let me know if you want to see part 1 and 2. I'll go get into it, I suppose. I'll leave it right there. I have a lot to say. I'm not going to get too deep into it right now at the moment. You let me know what you think in the comments. Is this individual Nolan Wells' best friend? Is he being honest? Is he being forthright? Has he got his story together after 3 weeks? Is he remorseful? Is he emotional? Was Nolan really his friend? Are they involved? Was he involved? Does he know more than what he is saying? Is he being totally honest? What say you? You just heard at least this part 3 about what he had to say, that their boat was in dire straits. Wyatt, Brooks, and their other friends was telling Nolan, get on the boat, Nolan. Nolan said, no, I'm staying with Katie. Just go ahead, go back, take my phone. He stayed with Katie, and then The only thing Katie remembers is that they were telling Nolan to get back on the boat. And he said, no, he was going to stay. Stay and do what? Because you ended up leaving him too. Katie left him. So what was he staying for? I would think I can see if he was staying back to be with Katie, who he had been with all day, according to his best friend there. But he wasn't staying back for Katie because Katie ended up leaving him right after y'all left. The only thing she remembers is y'all telling him to get on the boat and him saying no. That's the last she's seen him. Okay. So there you have it. We'll see. I get to part 4 too, I guess, when the part 4 comes along. See what he had to say. Finish that up. But, again, they had time to get it together. But I don't know. I'm not saying that these individuals are guilty of anything. I wasn't there. I don't know that to be the case. You heard what he said, that he called Miss Christine, Nolan's mother, the same day. Him and his family got on the boat, went looking for Nolan. The same day, he gave an interview to the police on July 7th, he said. So, couple of days after the incident, a couple of days after Nolan's body was found, I believe his body was found July 5th. He said he gave an interview and gave every detail, everything that he knows. So he's already on record with the police. So to now give an interview, I'm assuming everything he said now, he said with the police. I'm assuming. We'll see what happened, man. We'll see if we can figure out what happened with with Nolan Wells. See what happened with our brother. See if we can find if there was any foul play. Then the individuals responsible need to be held accountable immediately. The operative word being if there was any foul play. Certainly seems to be that way. It still seems very funny to me, very suspicious that he would just stay back for no reason, apparently, because he wasn't staying back for Katie. And then stay back knowing that he was staying back and still allow you all to leave with his phone. What do I know? Let me know what you think in the comments. Stay safe and stay free, people.